For the first time ever, we're headed into the Wele factory here in Taiwan. Now, Texas Joe is waiting inside, but before we get there, I want to lightly discuss three main ingredients that are going to make your mind go, yeah, just like that. Company employee owned, that's quality. Then we have 7 years of training. It's a training program unlike any other that I've seen. And then lastly, these men were handpicked by the government to create this company. But let's head in, talk to Joe, and find out more about these details. Well, my friends, we've made it inside, and just as I said, we got sexy Texas Joe waiting for us now. We're here in Wele, and we got hand scraping behind us, but there's one thing that's maybe even more important than that, and Joe and I have to bring that up to let you know why we're so excited to be here, and that's about the people. That's about what Wele does. That's about what Wele stands for, and how much does something mean to you when you also grow with the company, Joe. Now, I've given you enough ingredients to this recipe to describe to the audience what I'm trying to get you to say, right?
Well, yeah, you gave me a lot, so I'm going to keep it simple. Otherwise, we'll be here for 5 hours. How about this? The people. The people are actually owners of this company. They all have shares in this company. So what does that do? It builds a culture of perfection, ethics, morals. They care about the product. So if you care about the product, you care what customer receives once they're finished with a product. And you're discussing the hand scraping. Hand scraping in this organization, Wele, which stands for We Lead the Way, they are the ones that when they hand scrape, if it's 54 pieces metal to metal contact, that means they all get scraped to put together these components. Then that helps with a lot of vibration. It eliminates vibration. It also eliminates some other components that helps your tool life increase. Also, energy consumption is reduced by this. So that's a very important factor in any machine tool business, I believe. They still hold on to this hand scraping technology. Has been around for many years. I would say as far as at the beginning of this machine tool business has been around.
Yeah, it's a great introduction. Let's start our walk because I believe you said 5 hours, and 5 hours would be fun for me, but maybe the audience wouldn't stick around for 5 hours.
Well, I was just joking. I only got about 10 minutes.
But as we do that, I want to re-emphasize the importance, Joe. When we go around the world, we know about machines, right? We know about CNC, we know about manufacturing, it makes everything around us. But when people care, when they care, it changes everything about the quality. And we're gonna see some of that as we walk around here.
That is exactly right. Like right now, Wele, what they do is they build their own heads, like right angle heads, extension heads, universal heads. They also design and develop and assemble. And also what that does is they control quality. By controlling the quality, it gives you a good product. And by being owner of the company, you're going to care about every component and every aspect of this assembly of this product. And so as you're seeing some of this work being done currently on my left here, they take their time, they make sure it's done right, so when it gets delivered, they get a good product.
You know, I really think it's important as we continue to highlight, when I care about something, I do better. When I care about something, the quality goes up. Wele's built around that. Wele has been doing this for a while now. It's a reason why you've had such success around the world with these products, and you're considered this whole team family. I mean, I walked in the doors and you were getting hugs from everyone.
Well, the reason is I've known a lot of these people since 1996. I know I look young, but I'm actually a little older than you expect.
No, I'm not gonna take any guesses, but we are looking at a table right now. I see a 1.2 by 1.2 foundation of Wele, perfect flat plane. Would you mind going into detail about what we're looking at here?
Well, this is a master that they use when they're putting their components. They bring them in. When they do hand scraping, they want to make sure that it gets accurate. They stay within a couple of microns. And the reason that's important is when you put everything together and it's hand scraped, compared to, let's say you're grinding, let's say if you're grinding components together, you're gonna get around 5 microns. So if you put 2 pieces of metal together that are ground, that what happens is you're able to move the top piece compared to the bottom. When you're hand scraping, you'll have a difficult time moving one piece from another. So this is very important to have in any machine tool builder and assembly because it makes a better product. Rigid, and that's very important.
You know, something else I've learned about hand scraping, the importance of hand scraping, goes into the quality of the product, Joe, is the lifetime that it gives the machine, right? If I'm out of vibration, we have those obvious situations where we're gonna have shorter tool life. We're gonna have to replace the spindle more often. We're gonna, you know, there's a lot of areas that go down in quality if we're throwing shims in there, if we're not keeping the perfection that allows for that hand scraping, right? But overall, when we're talking to our clients, when we're talking to our friends out there, don't we want them to buy machines for the following generation that are gonna work 30 years, 40 years from now? And you have experience with Wele that has run for longer than that.
Actually, yes. Previously, I've known, like I said, the Wele family since 1996. I've actually used to install and repair machines. I installed a machine in 1996. Some of the same theories that they're currently using were used back then. That machine is still running today, 3 shifts, and still moving along because of they've always been employee owned and they care, hand scrape. But also there's another important element there that we need to talk about, Tony, is when they're casting, they have their own elements that they add into these castings. They help with vibration and thermal compensation. With the hand scraping and those elements in the casting, gives you better tool life, also reduces energy because your motors are not working as hard. Regardless of the vibration, if it's little or a lot, your motors are going to work a little harder. So when you combine those two things, it gives you a better machine.
You know, I agree with you completely, and there's something that we started this off with, and we continue to talk about how the employees get to own part of this company, but you know something else I want to bring up with you, Joe? How the company started. You're talking about some hand-selected people from the government, the smartest of the smart, if that's even a thing, the wisest of the wise, the clever of the clever. They said, we want you guys to start a company so you can get some Taiwanese folks employed. Can you tell us more details about that?
Yeah, I mean, too bad I wasn't around then because I probably would have been selected as well, but I wasn't. So what happened is the government of Taiwan went into the technology science park that they have here, and the professor and the top 3 students, engineers, were selected by the government to start a company, to create jobs and build a machine that could compete globally. So that, to me, it's a great story. Imagine being selected by the government to start a company. I mean, there's not a better story than that.
No, I mean, that's how you know quality exists. Now, we talked about how Wele has so many proprietary secrets. Cameras are here for the first time ever. There's a lot of details we can't show here. We're certainly not going to show people how this spindle is assembled, but Wele makes their own spindles, right? Wele makes almost everything in this machine on their own secret ingredients, we can call it. This is one of those areas.
That is correct. Not only the spindle, like you just stated, everything they have for very few selected items are designed, developed, and then made, then tested. They actually test everything individually with some hours behind them, and then they assemble it, and then they test it again. Then it has to go through a quality test after that. So it's vigorous testing after that. And it seems they never have issues after that. So that's important.
You said the word vigorous, and I'm going to play on that word because that is a good word. Now,
we can make a song out of it if you want.
Can we?
Why not?
English and Spanish?
Yes. Sí.
Sí.
¿Por qué no?
Claro. Okay. So, vigorous. What I learned that they also do as we're getting ready to walk into the build-in spindle running room, as they're testing the spindles, we even have the camera show a little bit inside. We can't show too much. Is the Wele team gives a machine, not gives, but utilizes friends within Taiwan for new developments of machines and says, please beat up my machine for a few years. And we want you to do it in the field outside of our own testing before ever releasing anything outside of Taiwan. Is that true?
That is correct. They usually, what they do, they have local market. They dominate the local market in Taiwan. What they do is when they design and develop a machine, they have selected clients, they give it to them, and they say, you know what? We want you to run it as hard, as fast, put it through the test, and then they go in there, evaluate the machine for a solid year, and then after that, they improve the product. The customer is fully aware of what's going on in this testing. So it's actually a great way to test it, real life experience, instead of in a lab.
And most of what I see out there is labs. And I think that's very normal. And thank you for doing that. But putting real world experience changes the game altogether. All right, we got something to my right, audience left, but something to your left, audience's right, that we have to talk about first before we get into the young man doing hand scraping over there. We have 3 tables here. Would you mind describing what they are?
So these 3 tables are, if you don't have 3 tables in your factory, these are needed to create masters for themselves for different departments. So in other words, this combination of 3 tables, hand scrape, it holds a tolerance, to the point of within a couple of microns. So these are made basically to create their own masters. As to the one we saw earlier, was created off these 3. This is very important to maintain the actual rigidity of any type of machining.
All right, buddy. Well, as we slide over here, this is our final area before we go upstairs to final assembly. And I believe there's 5 floors in the new building?
There is 5 floors.
But before we dive into that, we wanted to make sure that the audience knew 3 major ingredients for this conversation. Employee owned was 1. We started with that, the importance of that, the value that that brings to the quality of the overall parts. The second thing was how it all got started with hand selected the geniuses from the government to start a company. The third thing is a 7-year training program.
That is correct. 7 years you have to come in here and work your butt off. And you're not guaranteed a spot. That's why this is one of the most desirable companies to come work for. 1, you become an owner. 2, you're trained. 3, you become a master. Once you've finished your 7 years of vigorous training, you're at a level that nobody can touch you.
Amazing. Should we head upstairs and do a little bit more technology in the final assembly area?
Yeah, I think they have a bar upstairs too. Let's go.
Oh, excellent. All right, Joe, we made it upstairs, my friend.
I know, I ran out of air.
Woo, I know you did it. We went in an elevator.
Oh,
but we
okay.
missed the bar somehow that you mentioned downstairs. But the floors are clean, the technology is everywhere. And the first thing I want to frame up for the audience, because you're going to see some really amazing machines, some huge ones, some smaller ones, some technology you may not have seen before, but we're starting in an area and you're going to see this repeat, this conversation repeat over and over again. Is technology that you would typically find as a third party. You're going to find that Wele has it here. It's directly communicated to the machines, tested with the machines, so you don't have those hiccups or miscommunications that you might find elsewhere. So Joe, let's start off with this first one here, the tool identification system.
So basically, well, in other words, having it your own, building it your own, being responsible for your own, there's nobody else to blame, right? So this tool identification system's tool information follows the tool. Automatic transfer tool data to the controller. Tool confirmation protection. Very similar to other systems, right? There's a lot of these out there, but they're third party, and then there comes the blame game. Here, there's nobody to blame. Wele has developed their own to communicate with the tool magazine and also the spindle. Constant communication between the 3. The following is remote machine management system. In other words, this is a live information by the 3 factories that are going on right now. This is actual real information. This was also developed by Wele, which is another important feature that they also sell with their machinery. It helps with real-time machine status history. There's nobody to blame. This helps a lot with preventative maintenance or the tool operator, the operator of the machine slowing down the rapids and so on and so on. You're able to control and keep the numbers straight.
That's well said, Joe. Let's continue to walk because I do want to make this a full 5 hours. Is that okay with you?
Well, I was hoping more for 5:05.
Let's continue to walk because this is a big tour. But what I want to advocate for that same situation is just that when we're making phone calls, when we're trying to figure out what's going on, isn't it better to find one service location that does everything? You don't have to make 5 different phone calls for 5 different areas. You can call Wele first off and say, hey, it's my machine. Hey, it's my software. Hey, it's my tool management. Hey, whatever it might be, it's one phone call. It's one speed dial.
Well, I think that's true to be said about anything.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, anything you deal with in life, you don't want to be calling 20 different people. So yes, this helps with communication and also be able to narrow down and be able to find a solution quicker.
All right, Joe, let's get into some of these machines. We're actually at a crossroads, and we're gonna send our camera guy off, except the first thing I wanna do, because I saw some really sexy blue chips over here, would you mind talking about this machine while I grab some of these chips?
All right, yes, this machine, as you can see, currently, it's an LB421 YZ6M. In other words, this comes with a right angle head. It's automatic. It looks like 1 degree. And it can change from vertical to horizontal automatically. Change tools on both positions as well. We're typically the widest in the class. We're also probably the heaviest in the. Yeah. Speaking of the chips, and as you said, you like the color, you like the size, you liked everything because of the rigidity. Everything that we discussed earlier about the hand scraping, the elements in the casting, and all of that stuff we talked about earlier. This is the result, right? And then there's some other components on here we can discuss later on our tour as we continue on with this.
Yeah, we're gonna shut down shop with the details of some castings and some components that are really just gonna be simulating to the audience, so they must stick around to the end. Now,
yeah, and see what bar you're gonna take me to after this. You're wearing me out, man, you're wearing me out.
No, it can't be that bad. Now, one thing I've learned about Wele is they test everything. We said it downstairs, we're gonna say it again up here. They test everything. So let's send our cameraman off and showcase what's happening behind the camera right now and all the way down the line as I see testing being done everywhere.
Yes, that is correct. That's one thing that they constantly do is test every element separately, and then they test it put together. Constant testing, and then it has to go through a quality control testing at the end. As you can see through these videos that currently being displayed, you're going to see we're actually going to see 4 different types of testing on this these various equipment.
And so what we're looking at, well, something I'm noticing already, Joe, is it's offset here, and if I look down on the other side, there's a whole lot more weight being offset. So I think I know it's being tested down there. Well, we're sliding over here. It looks like I'm seeing some tool changes being done. Do you know what we're testing on this one?
Basically what they're doing is they're showing the versatility of this boring mill. As you can see, the test cutting, they're engraving and stuff. Basically the tool was called up to go to the next step. But as you notice, as they're getting closer to the actual part, this was done with continuous, as you saw the spindle coming out, right? Is to reach in a little further to the center of the pallet. And it's actually cutting inside, and I think it's cutting a cone, interpolating, I believe, in there.
That's clever. I like how that spindle came out, by the way. All right, we will make our cameraman go all the way down, but I see 20 and 30 tons down there, so we're testing weight down there?
Yeah, we are. If you notice on the first one that all the weight is on one side, hydrostatic table bearings on their system on that. Sorry about that. And what they're demonstrating is all the weight is to one side. It doesn't really affect the accuracy or repeatability of the machine, no matter where the weight is. So it can withstand all that weight on one side without any issues. The following testing is at 21 tons. It's testing the actual machine. Before, that's a testing portion of that. Then it gets assembled and it gets tested again.
It's incredible. So when we come back, I want to talk about the offset, because I've been to a lot of machine shops, and those machine shops have offset very, very heavy material in order to get more space for some of the longer tools that might be on there. And to know that I can rotate over and over and over again, hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of times, and nothing's gonna happen thanks to those hydrostatic bearings, as you mentioned, and it's just gonna repeat, that's a win to me.
Exactly, that is a win. And this is something they've done for a while now. It's nothing new for them. This is just part of the testing process.
It's nothing new. We just want to show the audience that this is the first time they've allowed cameras in.
This is the first time they allowed cameras in the Wele factories. Yes, that is correct. That's, I guess, because of your personality and your fame.
No, it's because of you. It's absolutely because of you.
It was because you're famous, man.
I gave them a call and they said no to me, but yes to you. So this is all you. Let's give you the credit.
You didn't say please. I think that was a problem.
All right, we promised the audience as we started off with some of the areas where we see third parties coming into play, right? But Wele seems to be doing it all in-house. They seem to be making sure that their customers, your customers, are taken care of. So here, it looks like we have some different versions of machining, and I know that these different versions, although they utilize Fanuc or Heidenhain or these different types of partners, there's some proprietary secrets underneath that they utilize that are only Wele performed.
That is correct. It's very similar to adaptive control, but Wele has their own system. And it gets a little confusing here, but it's basically saying it's roughing, finishing, that kind of step by step. And the reason is, you say normal mode, that could be like a roughing cycle. You can see the fast, but it doesn't leave a very good finish. And then the smooth, there is still not as pristine finish on that. And then you got the exact one. All this demonstrates the software and the way they manage to work together with Fanuc to give you optimal performance.
Yeah, very well said. And now let's go into thermal expansion. Now, I've played that game before. Thermal expansion can be a pain, especially in some areas of the world that you work, Joe, where it's humid and hot and there's no actual help with AC or heat in the winter and summer, right?
That is so true, man. Being that I go to climates that are extremely warm and we have no issues, is what they do is they have sensors throughout the machine that communicate to each other. And what they do is that if your shop is cool in the mornings and it gets hot in the afternoons, there's very little adjustments that you have to do because of the thermal compensation system that they have. I can't really get into details, but I can tell you there's a few sensors throughout the machine, casting and so on, that help with this process. And it's actually has helped a lot of my clients in Mexico and Central America as well.
I asked them how it worked, Joe, and they didn't want to tell me. I said, okay, there's a secret. But what I did notice is right here, we have 1 hour and 52 minutes, 1 hour and 52 minutes cutting process with compensation and without. And this is the micron difference. And that to me is enough ingredients that I needed to know. Now with our third piece over here is the additive, the adaptive control, right? So if I'm feeding heavy around say 80% and I start getting load that's heavier than that or lighter than that, it's gonna compensate, doesn't it?
That is correct. And the reason that this is being brought up, it's very common out there in the machine tool world, is this is Wele's software again. What is the key element of this discussion the last few minutes is everything is developed and put together by Wele. It's not a third-party company that you have to reach out to get this kind of performance.
Yeah, and now let's get back into testing again. I mean, we're going back and forth on purpose because we want the audience to be excited and not get bored of just you and I, right?
They're gonna get bored with us, dude.
No, impossible, impossible, not with this technology. But this is another piece of that testing, right? Where they say it must be perfect or the machine does not ship.
Exactly, this was a customer request. They had some expectations and tolerance that they required, and this was a test cut. In order for them to buy the machine, this had to pass. It passed, so they're buying the machine. So it's a machine precision measurement that is required by the customer.
So anyone out there who's looking to buy a Wele machine, you can do a test cut. Especially even if it's very, very difficult test, they're gonna make sure before that machine goes that your project is taken care of. Now this to me, Joe, is an area that I don't see every day. Because we see tool changes, regular tool changes, whether it be your BT30s or CAT 40s or HSK 100, we see that. But you're changing entire heads for either horizontal or vertical machining.
Well, let me correct a little bit. Yes, we can convert a bridge machine that's currently vertical into horizontal. But not only horizontal, we have universal heads, we have manual, automatic, we have 1 degree, we have 5 degree. All of these are developed by Wele again. What's the key subject that we keep bringing up? It's all Wele developed. That's why they say we lead the way. They lead the way, of course, because they do it all in-house. So this is very important that these are in different type of tapers, but there's a grappling system, a gripping system with a lot of fingers that hold it in place. So yes, some of these heads, they come in, they are installed on the machine. You can change tools with the machine automatically with the attachment head or vertically. You don't have to manually load a tool with this product.
Yeah, and if we could just get real close real quick. When I was going through this, Joe, the first thing I thought was there's no way that this taper can hold it, but it is really just putting it into place. And then the mechanics of this, and we won't go into details, but the grippers inside, that's what the rigidity comes from.
Right, that's what I was discussing just a few seconds ago while you ignored me.
I didn't ignore you, buddy.
Yeah,
I just wanted to get close on it.
All right, there's a ton of fingers. Can't go into details, but they grab it. Once it's in place and it's positioned into the key slots, then there's a logic in it. It grabs the whole thing and clamps it into place. And then that stabilizes it into the machine.
All right. Appreciate you doubling down on that with me. I promise you I wasn't ignoring you. I would never do that. All right, we got a big machine coming over here.
Yeah.
And Wele's known for that, right? And what I like about the machines this size is when it comes to engineering, Joe, and we're actually going to walk ahead this time because I get so excited. Can I run? No, I can't run.
Go ahead, man.
But when it comes to the engineering of the big machines like this, to find micron accuracies at a size that the travel distance of these machines sometimes baffles me, because I've seen some of the older machines where these 80-year-old men and women out there are fine-tuning it to make sure it works, and this one kind of just works.
Well, this is a 12-meter long.
12 meters.
And what they're doing currently is they're calibrating. So the head, they're actually building some macros so the head could be calibrated ever so often. So the calibration will keep it into a few microns. And that's what helps keep the accuracy of something of this size, of this magnitude, to be able to maintain the repeatability and accuracy. It's a well-built machine, and honestly, like I said, all the machines here have the elements of the scraping, the elements in the casting, all that stuff that we've discussed earlier. These come with it as well. That's what helps the product.
Can you brief me quickly, Joe, on the far side? I see a couple of those heads over there, and just how easy it is, or maybe how difficult it is, but how I think it's probably easy to switch one of those out and then quickly go back to the same micron accuracy that we're discussing now.
That is correct. If you notice back there, it looks like a coffin. And that's the last guys that can't try to get in, try to film in here.
Is that what happened?
Yeah. Now, those are multiple different heads on there, maybe a 30-degree and a head extension, and there's one for the cover. So there at the end of the table, you can change tools with all these attachments. So it goes back there, automatically changes head, it comes, and then it comes back out, and also you can do tool changes with each head within the system.
Yeah, very well said. Super quick, I'm gonna have the camera guy kind of just highlight this area here of the auto compensation and manual compensation in the micron world on a machine that big. It was something at one time that was hardly even fathomable. Now, as we head over to this last machine, to the end of this tour, we're gonna shut it down over here, aren't we? There's some major components that you highlighted a few minutes ago when I was throwing those blue chips around that we were gonna bring full circle over here.
What I was discussing earlier on this particular, what we're very proud of, is on our machines, some models, the casting, the column, the headstock, and the table, basically a 4-piece. Our castings, which comes with those elements that I discussed, go from end to end. Where the chip augers are inside with those castings. The castings have a pitch to help with the flow and the removal of the chips. Another great thing to discuss is the motor and gearbox are on the right side. The reason that design was done is to bring it lower to the spindle, right there. And that helps with rigidity. Now, this is a M-spec machine. What does that do? It takes the cover, puts it away, picks up the right angle head, and it goes into the machine. And again, you can change tools vertically or horizontally. It's all automatic, and then you can continue on. Another thing about the bridges, we're usually the widest in the class and usually the heaviest in the class. And another great design is that we have a linear guideway on top of the bridge, and then we have linear guideways in front. That helps with stability and the rigidity of this machine. If you put all this together with the hand scraping, again, let me mention it, 2 elements in the casting, it gives you a solid, rigid, accurate, repetitive machine. And basically this has been our success with this equipment, that when people get one, they end up buying more after the first one because they can actually see the difference, because it also adds tool life. It also adds actually less energy consumption because your machine is not fighting as hard So all those elements together, if you add those elements, I've had customers tell me, hey Joe, your machine gave me 15 to 20% tool life. Wow, if you add that in years, how much savings? And then not fighting the motors and the drives and everything, energy consumption around, let's say 10%. The energy plus tools, that's also savings. So all in all, to me, it's a great product. That's why I'm working where I work, and I love what I do, and I sell what I sell.
Yeah, it's almost the perfect closing statement, but I can't close just yet. And you want to know why? Because I like this part. That we could make almost a video just on this area, because I want to talk quickly, because we will talk for 5 hours, as we said at the very beginning of this thing, about the casting, about the rigidity, about the importance of that. When we talk about it's all about the base, we mean it. When it comes to vibration dampening, what happens to our entire machine, to our entire product, to the expensive material that we put on there when it's vibrated? What happens to our spindle, our cutting tools, the overall finish of the product? It all gets reduced, right? And what Wele has done with this very special casting that we can't go in the details about, but we can tell the audience it is heavy, it is robust, it is vibration dampening, and it makes for a longer life machine. That's the importance of the casting.
And the thermal compensation.
Yes.
Don't forget about that. So all those elements put together is why a lot of our customers are happy, and then we have a lot of repeat customers. You know, all products have their place, and all I can say is we have more happy customers because of that product being put together the way it is.
Yeah. Quickly on the area here where the spindle is, you mentioned that it's a little bit lower. Again, as to rigidity, it's that cleverness, right? And then here, I believe this situation is automated, but don't you have a lot of customers out there that will manually change it, which is an option for people as well?
Yeah, there's manual, semi-automatic, and fully automatic. And a lot of customers saying, you know what, I don't need it automatic because I'm only going to use it. Then we give you a solution. You know what, there's a manual one. You can actually put the box and put some stop blocks, and if you have a Renishaw or a Bloom or any kind of system, you can go over there and center that, and then you build macro, and you can put the box in and out. If it's not in your way, you can actually sit it on the table and leave it there if it's not in your way. So there's multiple options depending on the finance situation of each customer, and depends on the need. So the 5-sided machines, some customer says, hey, I need it all the time, so this is a solution. I don't need it that often, then we do have manuals. So yes, we have a solution for all needs at that point.
And the last thing I want to bring up and reiterate for you, because it's not every day we get cameras in here, and it's not every day I get to hang out with you, so I'm taking advantage of the moment, my friend, is the story that you told about your customer with 20-30% of tool savings, of being able to do more. Now, the reason I bring that back up again, for the audience watching, just in case it wasn't clear the first time, what happens is we might have a machine with the same tool, the same depth of cut, the same feed rate, the same material, the same everything, and then you pop it onto a machine with more rigidity, with vibration dampening, with thermal expansion capability, help, support, making sure that it does. So this program, the setup all remains the same and switches from one machine to another machine, and in that setup, the exact same setup on a machine that matters like this is where 20-30% can be saved and nothing's been changed other than the machine.
Well, actually, let me correct something.
Okay.
You're able to actually increase feeds and speeds because of that.
So not just apples to apples, but even better.
Because of the stability of the machine, you're able to, a lot of customers say, hey, I used everything off this machine and put it on yours, and I was able to increase my production by 20% or so. And I still got better tool life and plus. So I have a lot of testimonials from customers that have said that time and time again. And actually, when I leave those facilities, it actually makes me feel good, because we actually sold a solution that was better than what they had. And you know, as long as a happy customer is a repeat customer.
My friend, I truly appreciate your time and truly am grateful for the Wele family allowing us in with cameras for the first time ever. Thank you for being exactly who you are. Thank you for doing this tour with us. And thank you for expressing to the worldwide audience why Wele is such a significant machine tool.
Yes, and I want to thank you for coming. The Wele family, they're part of my family as well. They opened the doors. I was happy that you were able to come in and we can discuss. I apologize, we couldn't really get into some details in depth, but you know, that's what keeps this company going. It's don't forget, it's employee owned. So they're very protective because every employee here really cares. They care about the product that goes out. And the founding fathers are still very active and involved. So it's not easy to get in. So I was happy that we were able to do something. And I appreciate you and Cesar behind the camera. He smiles every once in a while. You know, thank you guys for coming.
Absolutely, my friend.
All right, take care.
Wow, what an honor it was to walk the Wele factory here in Taiwan with my brother from another, Mr. Texas Joe. And if you notice, the one thing or the several things that I noticed is that they take care of you. From the components being hand scraped, to the foundation of the product, to the testing that goes into it, and all of the accessories that are actually part of Wele itself. This is Wele in Taiwan, a first look, a detailed look brought to you by MTDCNC.